Add 1 tablespoon of salt into this. This chicken is around 1 kg, which is medium sized cut. 1 tablespoon of red chilli powder. This is plain red chilli powder. Turmeric powder, 1/4 teaspoon. Cumin powder, 1/2 teaspoon. Garam masala, around 1/2 teaspoon. And these all I have cut: onions, coriander, tomatoes and chillies, 1/2 tablespoon of ginger paste, 1/2 tablespoon of garlic paste, and add these onions which are finely chopped. So you can cut these onions lengthwise and then fry it till they are golden brown, and then add this. This is a normal procedure that is used for the other Hyderabadi and the dum biryani recipes, but since this is a special recipe which is different, it's a oil free recipe, I have added raw onions, and so it's just not like deep fried into oil. But if you wish, you can do that. I've just skipped that step and added coriander finely chopped and tomatoes and lengthwise cut chillies. And maintain the same proportions, almost the same quantities while you marinate this mixture. I've used a glass Borosil bowl because I avoid marinating it in some aluminium or steel containers, because since I'm going to add curds now, it's going to be a little acidic and it will react with metal. So the safest is using a Borosil bowl. And this is actually curds, homemade curds. So I have used around 500 ml of curds in this. Usually I use ready-made packets, around 2 to 2.5 packets, which is 200 ml each. So it sums up to around 400 to 500 ml. So add this, and it's very important to add the right amount of curds or yogurt into this mixture, because we are not going to use oil in this recipe, and the curds is the most contributing factor to check or to see this biryani whether it turns out too sticky or it will turn out rightly cooked. Sometimes if you add excess amount of curds, the rice will become too sticky and it turns out like some porridge or some khichdi. Or if you add less amount, then the rice won't be thoroughly cooked and the biryani turns out very dry. So this curds is the most important factor in this recipe, because oil is not going to be added in the vessel. So curds avoids it from burning. This is the right amount. The curd should cover this marinade completely. Just check at the end. And you can, some of them for marination they use hung curds. So I have never tried that out. I have tried it with the normal curds. and hung curds is a little thick, so I would prefer using this curds because it gives a little liquid in this, a little water, and it's very good during the preparation of biryani because I'm going to use half cooked rice in this. So I wanted to retain a little water content. Add some butter and add this butter in the corner of the vessel and let it melt gradually. Don't keep the flame on high heat. Let it be on medium to low because this butter will get burnt immediately. And since I season this on the corner of the vessel, it avoids me from using excess amount of oil or butter. And add the cinnamon stick and aniseeds, 2 of them. Cloves. You can also use oil to just do this seasoning, but I prefer using butter. Add pepper and braise this. And I've added 1 mace, but you can also avoid using that, it's not required. Bay leaves, around 2 to 3. Just let this get heated up a little. You'll start getting the aroma of these spices, and accordingly add the required amount of butter to avoid these spices from burning. Let all this get fried nicely, get the nice aroma of all the spices, all the flavoring. You can also add cardamom in this, but I've just skipped using that. And add the rice. I've used 1 kg of rice, and this is basmati rice, which is a little long grained. Mix this rice. So let all this flavoring get coated on this rice evenly, and braise it for some time on medium heat. While you're mixing this, don't add any water. After 3 to 5 minutes after mixing, you can add hot water By adding this hot water, this speeds up the process of this rice getting cooked faster. And don't add excess amount of water, because this water is going to be drained later on, and we don't want this flavoring to get wasted in this water. So just add just sufficient amount for this rice to get cooked around 30%. This is the quantity of water that I've added. So by adding excess amount of water, this entire flavoring is going to be lost in this water while it is going to be drained. And cook this rice on high heat, so it will get cooked very quickly because we have added hot water into this rice. This is the marinate. While marinating this, don't add butter or oil into this, because this will create a coating on the meat, and this marinated spices and this flavoring will not penetrate into this meat completely. So once this rice is 30% cooked, strain all the water. I am straining this rice just to eliminate. Just observe that this rice is just 30% cooked. You can understand by the grains. And straining this water is just to eliminate the extra starchy content of this rice. So while making the dum biryani, the extra starchy content doesn't stick to each other. And the rice is not even overcooked, it is just 30% cooked. Around 20 to 30% cooked, just heat it up in hot water to eliminate the extra starchy content. And I've added butter into a cooker. I'm using an anodized cooker just because it just gives a even heating across the entire vessel, and it just avoids anything that is cooked in this vessel to stick at the bottom, because it has a very thick base and a non-sticky base. So even if you add small to just sufficient amount of butter, it's fine, because the amount of curds also that I've added in this will just avoid this meat from getting burnt. Add all this marinated mixture into this. So add all the marinade into this, and even the remaining amount of curds. Because the water content now which is present into these curds will help the rice to cook the remaining 70% of the rice to cook completely. This is saffron. Few strands of saffron. Add it into milk, quarter glass of milk, warm milk, and let it soak for some time. Saffron gives a very good flavoring to this. You can also add flavoring to this biryani by using rose water, and just add this rice onto this layer. Just drop the rice through some height, so the extra moisture which is present in the rice just vanishes. The rice just doesn't stick to each other. Extra amount, slowly add little at a time. So let all this moisture that is trapped in this, the vapor, it just goes off. You can also add a pinch of turmeric powder into that saffron milk which we have kept to soak. So that will give a little extra color to this biryani. Or if you don't mind, you can add food color. If you don't want to add artificial colors, any food color, then you can always substitute it by adding a pinch of turmeric powder into that milk. That will give a color to this biryani. Some people also add potatoes, but I will try my next recipe by adding potatoes in the biryani. Just add some chillies for the flavoring. Garnish this. People also garnish the rice with fried onions. You can do that, but I didn't want to fry the onions in oil, so I have skipped that step. Add coriander leaves. You can also add mint leaves during the marination, some amount of mint leaves, and also while garnishing it. But I did not have mint leaves when I prepared this recipe, and so I have not added it. Add this milk, kesar soaked with the milk on this. Also, if you add little turmeric, it will give little color. Or you can add food color. You can also add to this flavoring by adding some ghee on this, but I have skipped that step. There are many alternatives. Using your own creativity and making the biryani more tasty. Some salt. Also, I forgot to mention that while cooking the rice, add sufficient amount of salt in the water. Add sufficient amount of salt because the water is going to be drained off. And the salt should get into the rice, flavoring of the rice. I just forgot to mention that step. And most important part is now this rice will be cooked on very high heat for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, reduce the flame to medium for another 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, put the flame off and let it just cook in its own heat for another 10 to 20 minutes till the steam escapes. And here it's ready. So in total time taken was 20 minutes. 10 minutes on extreme high heat, so that creates heat and a lot of vapor that gets trapped, and for another 10 minutes just simmer it on medium to low flame depending on the temperature you have, depending on the flame. And the rest of the time let it cook in its own heat. Totally only 20 minutes time taken. 10 minutes high heat and 10 minutes medium heat, medium to low heat. Just observe that this rice looks so good, not even sticking, none of the rice is sticking to each other. Very good flavoring. It's an excellent oil-free recipe.